All right,
All
welcome
right.
back, guys. We're getting into top cut of the Independence, Missouri midseason showdown. We've got a top four cut. They played best of one to get here, and they're playing best of three to move on. So on the left of your screen, you have John Masters using a mono ghost team of Mimikyu, Aegislash, Jellicent, Sableye, Marowak Lowland form, and Palossand. Right, you have Ethan Simpson, who's using a team of Blacephalon, Krookodile, Landorus-T form, Medicham, Ninetales Alolan form, and Noivern. So we saw last game in the last set in Swiss that Ethan is carrying high jump kick on his Medicham and that it deals a ton of damage. Unfortunately, because John is using a mono ghost team, we're not going to get to watch that damage at all. So I'm a little bummed about that.
Yeah. Well, in exchange, we're going to see Blacephalon be able to do huge damage with Shadow Ball. And if Krookodile is able to get its Anger Point stuff going, then a +6 power trip will easily knock out any Pokemon on John's team, except for maybe Mimikyu if it has its disguise. But we see a Blacephalon and Landorus lead against John's Mimikyu and Aegislash. So this looks pretty strong for Ethan, I'd say. Like, Blacephalon is just going to be such a big deal in this matchup. Just being able to fire off huge powered Shadow Balls, even in this case, Flamethrower is really good. And then I don't know what the Landorus is going to do, but probably something that's not good for John.
Yeah, so this Blacephalon, it's sort of a double-edged sword, though, right? Because it's going to be able to hit every single John's Pokemon super effectively, but on the flip side, it's rather frail, and it's going to be able to be hit super effectively by everything on John's side of the field. So he's got to be careful how he uses it.
Yeah, we see the one guy switch out. And Shadow Ball comes out and hits the Jellicent for a significant amount of damage, and Landorus goes for Rock Slide, so breaking the Mimikyu's disguise and having that flinch chance potential. That just makes the Jellicent faint, so that's a little bit of a surprise to me. I suppose I hadn't been intimidated. That shouldn't be that big of a surprise. But now with Mimikyu's disguise busted, we'll see if it can get an attack off, and it's unable to.
Mimikyu flinches. That is huge. Because right now, Ethan definitely has the speed advantage, and so if that Mimikyu was going for a Trick Room, that could have completely turned the speed of this game around. However, since it didn't get the chance to, Ethan takes a really strong first turn, picking up a free KO, breaking the disguise on Mimikyu, and taking 0 damage. Like, that's a really strong turn for him.
Now the Blacephalon is threatening huge damage on either Mimikyu or Palossand with its Shadow Ball. That Landorus did a decent chunk of damage with Rock Slide. I don't know if that confirms an item or anything like that. But John having to play defensively, switching his Ghost Weakness his Ghost Weak Pokemon to another Ghost Weak Pokemon. This Ghost Weak Pokemon is able to survive, but it may not even be able to survive the follow-up Rock Slide. But it does.
Yeah, so that Rock Slide didn't deal a whole ton of damage. And Palossand flinches again, so this is proof right here. You know, when in doubt, just click Rock Slide. And
John hovers over the forfeit. I don't know if he actually locked it in, but if you...
John just rage quitting right now. You know what? That's fair. 2 Rock Slide flinches in a row. They were a big deal, and Blacephalon being in position to just deal massive damage like that, you know what? Maybe it's not a bad idea. Shake it off. Go back to the drawing board. So what do you think it's going to take for John to turn that game around into a win? Like, how's he going to break Blacephalon?
It's got to be Trick Room. There's not really any other way to get around it. If he gets up Trick Room, he's actually in a pretty favorable spot, I think. The Landorus is fairly bulky, but everything else on Ethan's team will generally faint to the offensive combination that we see here. I think one thing that's important is that that Ethan didn't lead with his Roar Ninetales. Typically, you would think that Roar Ninetales would be coming to a matchup with Trick Room, but Ethan opted not to use that. Perhaps John was leading the way he did, expecting Ninetales, and instead caught Blacephalon and Landorus, and that was just a rough matchup for him.
Right, because as we saw in your set, Ethan did very well by blocking the Trick Room from coming up, and so I was a little surprised to not see that come out. We'll see if he maybe makes that adjustment, and it looks like he did, actually.
Yeah, Ninetales and Blacephalon here are exerting enormous pressure versus whatever John has. And it's actually Jellicent and Mimikyu. So this is interesting. John does have some options here. So Jellicent will be able to survive one Shadow Ball. And same with Mimikyu because of its disguise, which means that he can get up Trick Room. But he can only get it.
I have $10 that tells you that John is clicking Trick Room with both Pokemon right now.
But see, if he does that, and then Ethan doesn't do that, then he'll look really silly.
He would look really silly, but that's the type of read I expect John to make now. He's like, oh, well, maybe I can get roared by either one of them can get roared, but not both of them. If I just click Trick Room twice, I'm guaranteed to get it up. And by guaranteed, obviously, he has to be prevented on one of his Pokemon.
Yeah. The Shadow Ball comes out from Blacephalon, likely going to do significant damage to the Jellicent, but instead targets the Mimikyu. So Mimikyu's disguise is busted. And if he did go for this play as you expected, well, we don't see that. We actually see the
Farium Z coming out.
Yeah, the Let's Snuggle Forever. Oh. Yeah, he's going to go Snug on one of these Pokemon. So Snug will probably knock out Ninetales. I'm not confident that it would be able to knock out Blacephalon. Blacephalon is very frail, but it is a resisted hit.
It would be a resisted hit.
Yeah, so...
so this just super adorable little dance, and then a terrifying mugging in the woods. We'll see how this Ninetales holds up to this attack.
Yeah, well, it appears that it has, and that's important because this Mimikyu went before the Ninetales, and if that Ninetales is going for roar,
look like Ninetales is going for roar, but get the right one, and he didn't. Oh. So this is a huge turn for John, setting up Trick Room with his Jellicent.
Yeah, that's about the best turn I think you could ask for if you're John. Not only did you get damage down, but your Mimikyu is at least alive in the back, and now you're pressuring this Blacephalon instead of it pressuring you. This Ninetales has its sash broken, so you're able to just kind of attack what you've got right in front of you.
Absolutely, that's a great turn for John, and it sets him up really well. Ninetales just needs to get hit one more time. It's down to 1 HP. Blacephalon probably only needs to get hit once. It's very frail. So Ethan's going to be playing, on his haunches a little bit right now. Yeah,
this Krookodile coming in isn't very promising either. If this Jellicent went for example, a Water Spout, this would do significant damage. We actually see an Iron Head coming out from Aegislash, certainly enough to knock out the 1 HP on the Ninetales. And let's see what attack the Jellicent goes for. Life Orb Aegislash, in fact. A Scald comes out, and it will do some damage to the Krookodile, but it won't knock it out in one hit. So this gives Ethan the potential to protect a little bit more, but Blacephalon in the back, we haven't confirmed that it's Choice Scarf, but I think it's pretty likely that it's Choice Scarf. Right. So if he sends in Blacephalon, that's not good for him at the moment. But he does actually end up sending it in, so he must not have anything else in the back that he thinks will work in this situation. But I think it's the same situation as last turn.
Yeah, we'll see what Aegislash does. I imagine it's carrying either Shadow Ball or Shadow Claw. So Ethan is like, oh, nah, man, I'm done with this game. And we're going to see a game 3.
Oh, man. You can't get much better than that. Like, each meme losing so quickly that both players opt to forfeit at 4-3. That's fantastic.
Why drag it out when you know the result?
Yeah, I like that a lot from Ethan, because unlike what John had to do with his forfeit, Ethan actually conserved his final Pokemon. So, although I'm assuming John is going to go with a similar game plan, nevertheless, he doesn't know what Ethan had in the back.
Preserving that information is good, and John just very confident, locked in right away. Ethan's definitely thinking, he's like, okay, I gotta make sure Trick Room doesn't go up, because once it does, I'm out. And John's just gotta go hard into that Trick Room mode and make sure it goes up. That's the win is controlling the field condition.
One thing that could be interesting, if this Sableye is taunt, then he could opt to taunt the Ninetales, and that would prevent the roar from occurring. But I imagine since he's not brought the Sableye, I imagine he does not actually have that, because otherwise, like for example, a Fake Out or that taunt would be very instrumental. So Ethan could go back to his game 1 plan of trying to flinch the Mimikyu, but it's not especially reliable, so Yeah, I think this is an interesting adjustment Ethan has to make.
This Sableye is actually an offensive one. It Mega Evolves, Nasty Plot, and then goes for Shadow Balls and Dark Balls. So,
oh man.
I may be misremembering. It might have Protect, but I don't 100% remember its fourth move. But I would say it's probably not super strong in helping him set up the Trick Room. So John, going with this, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and brings in Mimikyu and Jellicent again.
Yeah. This time we see the Noivern from Ethan. Now, I haven't seen anything from this Noivern, but I bet it's something to do with Z Tailwind, and some shenanigans with boosting his Krookodile in that way. Beyond that, I couldn't tell you what this Noivern is going to do. So I think it's the same situation. If John is able to get up Trick Room, he's going to be in a fantastic spot. And if he can't get up Trick Room, he will probably lose immediately.
Mm-hmm. So this Noivern could be like Boom Burst. It could have Telepathy for Mind Blown.
Medicham.
Yeah.
But he probably wouldn't be going for Boom Burst here.
Absolutely not. That would be absurd.
Yeah, it could be Specs, you're right, in that regard.
I don't know if it learns Whirlwind, but that would just be the play.
Roar and Whirlwind turn one.
I think it can learn Taunt, and it looks like that's exactly what's happening. Oh, just disregard.
No,
Z.
Yeah, this is a Z Fly, and so it boosted its critical hit ratio. So this is a Z Tailwind. So, an interesting play to say the least, setting up Tailwind in front of the Trick Room. But an Ice Beam comes out, and that's going to knock out the Noivern in one hit. Never mind, it does not.
What?
Ninetales reward, but he gets the wrong one.
Oh, he got the wrong one.
Because oh no, and that means he's gonna get a Trick Room.
Well done on John's part, though, not revealing the Trick Room on Mimikyu in the previous two games.
Yeah, it is possible that he thought potentially this is Swords Dance, play rough.
Absolutely, I can
something
completely understand that assumption after and having. I mean, I guess it's fair to say that Mimikyu was flinched in game one, but the fact that John gave up rather than trying to set Trick Room in game one, I can definitely understand how that would lead you to think that it wasn't carrying it.
Ninetales having Sash means it will be able to survive at least one of these attacks. An Iron Head goes into it, which will certainly activate its Sash. Gives a flinch chance for later as well. Mimikyu opts for the Swords Dance rather than taking a knockout on the Noivern. So I don't know how I feel about this, but the Ninetales ends up flinching anyway, and that's the Noivern goes for Shadow Claw.
Noivern goes for a Shadow Claw into the Aegislash. It's a critical hit, but still not enough, even in sword form. So Noivern just doesn't have the chops for battle.
Yeah, it seems, I would imagine that Shadow Claw, with its increased critical hit ratio, is for that Anger Point Krookodile. The Hail did not knock out the Noivern, which notably means that John is a little bit behind on his Trick Room turns, but he should be able to secure 2 knockouts here, and that will allow him to pressure with his +2 Z move in the late game. Let's see if he's able to. Okay, he has Shadow Claw, so he doesn't have to risk missing a play rest. So that will knock out the Ninetales. Aegislash, I believe, will it faint to another turn of Hail? Let's see how much it takes. 21 down to 11, so it'll be able to survive one more turn of Hail, importantly. It cannot survive another round of Life Orb, though.
Correct. So its next attack will take it out, but depending on what Ethan has, and if this Blacephalon is Scarf as you suspect, it's really not going to matter. He won't be able to protect to stall out the Trick Room turns.
Yeah, and this looks just about like what John was wanting. If that Blacephalon is Choice Scarf, even if it's not, a Let's Snuggle Forever into Krookodile will do massive damage even through Protect, and Aegislash's attack will do significant damage to the Blacephalon as well.
Exactly.
This is going to be rough. If the Aegislash, it opts for Sacred Sword, so that just knocks out the Krookodile, so I guess that's fair enough, because then the Shadow Claw will knock out the Blacephalon. A wise play.
So the Shadow Claw going into Blacephalon, and that's going to be game. So we're going to see John Masters again with Mono Ghost Team in the finals, and I can't tell you how excited for that I am.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. He one-upped his performance last time. I don't know if he one-upped on his team. I think Mono Ghost is slightly less of a meme than Trapinch Smoochum. But I think this is still pretty fun to watch. Mono Ghost taking wins. Apparently, against Carl, in one of the previous rounds on stream, he had a Snorlax with Frustration as its only attacking move, so he couldn't bring the Snorlax versus his team. He completely invalidated one of the sets. So obviously, this is still a joke team, but it's pretty funny to consider the advantages that Mono Ghost was able to provide here.
So, I mean, it seems like John tends to do better at these meme formats. We should really be talking to him about taking sort of stuff to internets in July.
I don't know about that, but in any case, we'll be setting up the other top 4 set, and we'll be back with the Game Cafe Premier Challenge here in a little bit.